Hello class, welcome back. So I want to finish the videos on the Constitution for constitutional review. The last video I put up was constitutional principles, and it basically explained how the Constitution works. In this current video, I want to get into constitutional compromises, and we're going to look at the deals which were made between the states and the politicians back in the late 1700s at the Constitutional Convention in order to have it approved and drafted and ultimately become our plan of government that we're still under today here in 2020. First off, I want to start with what's known as the Great Compromise. The Great Compromise basically took our legislative branch, right, the lawmaking branch, the legislatures, and broke it into two separate houses. Okay, you have first the United States Senate, all right, and in the U.S. Senate, each state gets 2 senators, regardless of the population of that state. So think about that. A state like California, which is the most populated state in the union today, has 2 senators. A state like Wyoming, which is the least populated state in the union today, has 2 senators. Every state in the country has 2 senators. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives, the amount of members of the representatives you have in the House is based on your population. So California has over 50 people in the House of Representatives. Wyoming has 1. Okay, so in the House, it's contingent upon your population to determine how many votes or how many representatives you get there. So let's break this down. Why is this considered a compromise? Remember, compromise is a result of conflict. If everybody gets along and agrees, you don't need to compromise. So what do they have to compromise on? The heavy populated states, right? The big populated states, like today would be a state like California, Texas, New York, Florida. But back in the during the era of the Constitutional Convention, let's use the example of states, like Virginia and Massachusetts, states with high populations. They looked at it like, you know what? We have more people. Since we have more people in our state, we should get more say when it comes to making laws. That's what the big states or the heavy populated states wanted. The low population states over here basically said, well, if our legislative branch is based on population, then the big states will get to pass all the laws. That's not fair. We should all be equal because we're all states. It doesn't matter how many people we have. So that was the conflict. Should it be based on population like the big states wanted, or should it be equal representation like the small states wanted? So what did they do? They compromised to resolve the conflict. The Senate pleases the small states because every state gets 2 senators regardless of population. The House of Representatives pleases the big states because the amount of representatives you have is based on population. Compromise. Conflict resolved. The next compromise deals between a conflict between the northern states and the southern states. The northern states did not have a large amount of slaves. The majority of slaves in this country were in the southern states. So the southern states, in order to stack the House of Representatives, because the House of Representatives is based on population, basically went out and said, you need to count all our slaves towards the population total. The northern states, not on the purpose of morality, but on the fact that they didn't have a lot of slaves, said, no, none of them should count because they're not citizens. So with that said, they went back and forth. The South wants to count all of them so they can get a greater advantage in the House. The North doesn't want to count any because they know it's really not going to benefit them. It's only going to benefit the South. So what do they agree? They agree to what's called the 3/5 compromise. They count 3/5 or 60% of a state's slaves towards the state population total. And once again, it's compromise. Neither side gets everything they want. The South wants to count them all. The North wants to count none. They meet somewhere near the middle. Last but not least, the Electoral College. This is the system we use to elect the presidency. It's a double election system. So in November of 2020, the people will all vote, right? So all the people in the states vote. And if you win the popular vote, in your state, you get the electoral votes for your state. And whoever gets the majority of electoral votes, which today is 270, whoever hits that magic number of 270, you become the next president. So, needless to say, if you win the popular vote in the bigger states, you get more electoral votes. You guys know, and you've heard me and seen me do this in class so many times, 270towin.com. 270towin.com. It's such a great resource for looking at presidential elections. I'll actually post that link to my webpage along with this video. So what the Electoral College was really a compromise on was you had remember the conflict, right? The compromise was a result of conflict. You had some people in this country who wanted a popular vote to determine the president of the United States. Just let the people choose. Count them all up. Whoever gets the most votes wins, like you guys would do for like class officers, right? Then you had others who said, no, we need to let the Congress choose. You know, there shouldn't be direct democracy for the presidency. Let's let the Congress choose. So what they did was they came up with this electoral college, which was kind of a compromise. So I mentioned that number 270 before. So let's say in November of 2020 there's a presidential election, and just for argument's sake, let's say it's the Republican, Donald Trump, and the Democrat, Joe Biden, who's currently the front runner. And neither of them hits 270 electoral votes. It's possible to get 269, so nobody gets the majority. Well, how do you choose the president? Well, here's the compromise. The House of Representatives would then vote to determine who the president of the United States is. All right, so that was kind of their compromise on election of the presidency. All right, the people get to vote, but the electoral majority really determines who the presidency is, but if nobody hits electoral majority, well, then Congress gets to choose. All right, these are just some of the constitutional principles. I hope this finds you guys all safe and well, and this link will be up on my webpage soon. Take care.